Maybe she'll start this time. So where I live up in Canada right now, it's about -40 outside. Now that's before you factor in the wind chill. This week we've had like -50 wind chills. I'm talking Celsius, obviously. And it's been really cold, and honestly, it's more often that a vehicle won't start than it will start. That's kind of where we're at. So no surprise this thing didn't start. It had a weak battery right from the day I picked it up. So not really surprised there, but boosted with another one, and I got her in here. And as you can see, I got a little bit of brushing off to do. Get some of this snow off of here. That's kind of why I wanted to bring it in here, let some of this thaw out before I start working on it again. So in this video, I wanted to attack these. I want to get these rads out of here, the condenser, the intercooler, and the actual radiator. Get them out of here. And then once those are out of the way, I'm going to go ahead and do the leaks that need to be done. So this water outlet on this side needs to be done. That's an easy fix. The oil feed line for the turbo down there, have one of those. That's a super easy thing. And then the main thing is the oil cooler, which is actually behind the turbo. They tend to leak, and you can buy a set of gaskets so you can rebuild them. Now, in order to do that, you obviously have to pull the downpipe, the turbo, the exhaust manifold, all that off. So I figured the perfect time to do that would be when all of this is out, right? I get tons of room and I can do it then. So that's kind of the goal for today's video. Now I went to the dealership, picked up some of these parts. So these are the gaskets I was talking about for the oil cooler. You have a couple O-rings and then couple goofy looking gaskets. I'll show you where those go. Super easy to rebuild. And then in here, have that water outlet I was talking about. Comes with the coolant temp sensor in it as well. And then with that, I also bought the hose that goes from the top of this into the reservoir, because this fitting, it's kind of funny. Once you take it out once and put it back in, it's pretty tough to get it to seal again. So you're almost better off just buying this whole hose, and then this clips into that, and then you're good. It won't leak. And then here's the oil feed line I was talking about. Had this off of a different car. And then the last piece I got is this piece of trim that you see over there. Now, this piece actually goes over here. This sits right here in front of your mirror, and it clips onto your fender. And it covers this bolt for your fender. So that's why I had to pull this off. Now, normally, when you pull this off, you end up breaking it because of the type of clips that are on it. And as you can see, I broke it there, and I broke one of the clips. So when I was at the dealer, I saw what kind of price this was going to be. And I think it was like $7 or $8. So I figured, well, can't really turn that down. So then this will just pop right in place. No problems there. So all the rads are out, and actually the condenser pretty much took most of the hit. The intercooler is a little bit twisted, but it seems like it's actually still sealing. And then the radiator, same deal. It's actually not bad, just a little bit twisted. So I do already have those ones, so I'm going to replace them anyway, but they could probably be used with a little bit of finesse. And then coming over here, as you can see, it is wide open now. This is part of the oil cooler, and then it kind of goes in behind the turbo. So all this is gonna have to come off, but it's nice to have it wide open. Like, it is super easy. Like, I have never done them this way. Obviously, I've always had them as the car's in one piece. You always have to change them. And having all this taken apart, world of a difference. So much nicer. So what I'm actually gonna start with, I'm going to do this coolant outlet in here. I'm going to start with the easy stuff first. So this has to come out of the way and then disconnect all the coolant hoses, and then you got 3 bolts and that pops right off, no problems there. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So the coolant outlet is in, all tightened down. That was super easy. So now I'm going to go into the oil cooler gaskets. So right behind the turbo there, which means pretty much all of this has to come off. Now normally you'd pull the downpipe and then unhook all your lines from the turbo, pull your intake off, then pull the manifold and the turbo together. I'm wondering if maybe since there's a flex pipe right below this, I could just unbolt the manifold and kind of swing it down enough to get in behind to get the oil cooler off. I kind of don't think so, but I think I'm going to give it a shot just because I hate dealing with this V-band here. That, or I'll pull downpipe and turbo off as one piece just because, well, the last one I did, I broke it. And it's not the easiest thing to get lined back up. So I don't know how I'm going to do it, but somehow I'm going to get this oil cooler off so we can change the gaskets in it. So here's what it looks like once you have this cooler off of the car. So basically you have this port that'll go into the block, and then this bolts onto the block with 3 bolts. And then these two, they go together like this, and then you separate them. This is one of the main gaskets that leaks. I have the new one in here now. That's the old one. It's pretty hard and dried up. So then there's also the new gasket from the cooler to the block. That one's also changed. There's an O-ring that goes around here. Haven't put it on yet, but I have it in this bag. And then there was a 4th O-ring that I purchased, and I think it goes in here somewhere. I might pull this apart. I might not. It's not leaking, so I don't think I really want to touch it, honestly. So, yeah, just make sure you clean up this surface on here. Sometimes there's a little bit of gasket residue left around here. Clean that off so that it seals nice. And then bolt these 2 back together and just stick it back on the car. It's simple as that. These 4 bolts are T30. And yeah, it's really quite simple. The hard part is literally getting it off of the car. So I'm going to quickly throw this O-ring on, put these 2 back together, and then I can go stick it back on the car. So although this doesn't really apply to most cases because I have all my rads out and the fan out and everything and I have full access from the front, if you are curious, yes, I was able to pull the turbo down just enough to sneak the oil cooler out of there. And I left the downpipe hooked up down there and I left the V-band hooked up. The only thing is I had to pull the lines off of the compressor just to give me a little bit more room to pull it out. However, the problem was when I went to bolt up the oil drain, there's the two bolts, one's at the front and one's at the back. The one at the front is no problem, but the one at the back, I couldn't fit my fingers in between there on the turbo and the downpipe to get the bolt in and started and tightened up. So I did end up taking the V-band off, pulling the downpipe off, left it attached still at the bottom. Then I was able to get my fingers in there to start the bolt and then get it tight and then get the downpipe back onto the turbo. So that was a bit of a hassle to do that way, but it was still faster than pulling the whole manifold and turbo and everything off. So again, this doesn't really apply to most people because I bet if you had the fan in here, you wouldn't be able to pull the turbo out far enough to get it out, but who knows, maybe you could. I don't know, I've never tried it that way. So that's the oil cooler done. So now with all the engine stuff all taken care of, I'm going to jump into this set of rads that I have. Now this is your fan, radiator, intercooler, condenser, and then there's also on this one a transmission cooler, an auxiliary transmission cooler, because there's also the one in the rad. Obviously this came out of a car with an automatic transmission, mine's a manual, so I'm not going to be using these ports. So I'll either find a way to plug them or I'll just leave them open and flush this out. And obviously it's probably going to fill up with dirt over time, so this won't be able to be used on an automatic car ever again, but I don't really need it to be. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to probably pull these apart, leave the fan on the rad, put that in the car, and then pull this cooler off, and then just kind of start putting them on piece by piece and get it all mounted in the car and all the hoses hooked up. And now I have all the rads in the car. That actually went together really easily. The main rad's in, the rad hoses are hooked up, and then I plugged in the electrical fan, and then coolant temp sensor down here, and then you also have an air conditioning pressure switch right here on the condenser. The charge air cooler's in there, and the boost tubes are hooked up to it. And then obviously the air conditioning lines are hooked up to the condenser and tightened. And so that pretty much seals up the whole system for all air conditioning, coolant, and the turbo. So that's going to do it for today's video. That should fix pretty much all the leaks on the car other than water pump and valve cover. Like I said, those are going to be done at the dealership. So the car will be going there soon. In the next video, probably going to end up doing a PCV fix kit that I actually purchased off CruzeKits.com. First one I've done of those, but it's to help with the horrible PCV system that they have in these cars. That's part of the reason why that valve cover is being done. Under warranty is the PCV valve plugs up, and then it'll blow out the valve cover gasket, which it did on this one, and it usually blows out the front main as well. So I have a front main seal for it as well. So that's going to get done. Basically, this PCV fix system, it gives you a new check valve, and it's a more reliable one, and it's one that you can replace. Rather than the one inside the intake manifold that'll blow up and then you have to replace your whole intake. So I'll go further in depth into it in the next video when I actually have it in my hands. But until then, be sure to like, be sure to comment, be sure to subscribe. Got a lot more content coming with this car. So with that, we're going to see you guys in the next one.